momentarily. Going to do a quick read from FanDuel. If you're trying to make some money and you have a little extra money to spend, FanDuel is the place if you're going to place your bets. It's the sports book to use, especially with NBA games getting back into full swing. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip or want to place a bet in the fourth quarter, you can stay in on the action. If you're looking for an even bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. If you can think about a bet, you can find it on FanDuel, and you can put it together to make some big-time wins with their single-game parlays. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. So, to wrap up the Media Row week from the Super Bowl, Miles talked, but we also had Deion and Shedeur talk. We're going to talk about Miles in a sec, but we had some interesting comments here from the Sanders family, and I put up a little montage together to show a couple different clips. The last clip you'll see in this little montage is about a minute long. Shedeur was with CBS Sports. They showed him a team, and he had to pick emoji to then show back. So that is what you'll see in the final clip. And then I have a question to ask you guys about all of the Sanders Radio Row stuff afterwards. So, Ant, let's play the clip, and then I'll ask the guys my question.
Yeah, I could go number one, but it may not be a fit.
Right.
You know? Or I could go number two and it'd be a fit. Or I could go number three and it'd be a fit.
The top three, for sure. I've spoken to all but one.
Right.
You know, that's the Titans. I haven't spoken to them yet, but he has. But the others I've spoken to.
Well, he was. Did you see Brian Callahan talked about Joe Burrow's arm?
Yeah.
When it comes to the door?
Forget the arm. He can spin it. We know he can spin it.
Right.
I mean, he has 4 years of film. So he's straight. Started every year in high school, started every year in college, but missed one game. So we understand what we're getting. It's no surprise what.
Oh.
See, one thing about me, you know I'm consistent, man. You know, you can just check the completion percentage.
Oh.
See, one thing about me, you know I'm consistent, man. You know, you can just check the completion percentage.
So like I said, I just showed that second one because it happens real quick, but they showed the Browns, and he put the eye emoji. Tyvis sent us a text in the group chat over the weekend. Anytime a player starts recruiting a team, he's got his red flag, his antenna up that something's happening. Jason, JG, I want to ask this properly. Is there too much smoke this early out between Sanders and the Browns? Is this just typical Radio Row stuff? Or does Tyvis may have a point that when a player starts recruiting a team, something should be on our antenna, on our radar that's not 100% right?
When Tyvis said that, I agreed with it right away. When the player starts making pitches for why he should be number two, and Deion kind of said the quiet part out loud, top three. Like, that's where you want to be. You don't want to slip.
Right.
You don't want to be that awkward draft day cautionary tale where you're all got your best suit on and number 11, they're not focused on the commissioner. The camera's in your face. Not saying that he would slip that far, but there is a possibility, and I've seen him in some mocks go later. So I do think that he might be concerned. I do think that they've given up on the idea that Tennessee is going to draft him. I've been saying for a couple of weeks, I think they love Cam Ward. Now, they might throw a curveball. I don't know. But and the reason that they would not come out and say they love Cam Ward is because maybe Cleveland loves him more. And if they do, then they can make a trade and get an asset for it. But I do think that in their mind, the Tennessee train has left the station. And now I think the obvious next choice is Cleveland. You want to be number two. You don't want to be number three. And so I think he's going to continue to recruit that. But I do think that Tyvis is right. It's never a good look when a player starts pitching for the second or the third pick or whatever.
Yeah, I think what's starting to happen is reality is setting in, and the reality is anytime that you're getting drafted, I don't care who you are, you want to be drafted higher than later. And, you know, I'm looking at the difference in money. You know, say, for instance, he went somewhere like 6. Difference between a number 1 overall pick with Caleb Williams, his signing bonus was $25.5 million. You go down to number 6, you end up with Malik Neighbors. His signing bonus is $18 million. So you're talking about roughly $7 million that you're losing just by going 5 spots.
Yeah.
And if I know anything about the Sanders and Prime, they're not in the business of giving back no money. Also, they're not in the business of going mid-first round. That's not what the name says. And I've said this too. Like, yeah, we can look at it and say, "Oh, it's a bad situation," but everybody thinks that when you see the pretty girl in the room over in the corner, you see a bunch of guys break up with her. But if she come talk to you and say, "Hey, you're different," try turning her down. It's kind of difficult doing that. Everyone thinks that they're the guy that can turn it around, and that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to think that I'm that guy. And I think if you look at it, I think the whole thought process that Deion's going to prohibit him from going somewhere, that I think that ship has sailed a little bit. Now the competitive juices is taking over, and now you're here, and now you have to be your own man. Like, you have to make your own way and your own path. So yeah, I think he's has no problem going number 2.
Deion's sort of talking out both sides of his mouth.
I think so too.
If you go back and look at the old tweets about he was talking about Baker in 2018, and he was saying you wouldn't want to go to Cleveland. Like, directly
Now,
said
in
Cleveland.
fairness, that was 7 years ago.
What's changed?
Well, Deion can change his mind like that.
Sure, but I'm saying
New
in terms
information.
of Cleveland, what's changed?
That's $7 million.
Nothing.
To make you think that
we're in the same spot today that we were before we drafted Baker Mayfield.
Absolutely. So he's already on record once saying that, and then there's other clips of him on shows saying, of course, he's going to be involved with his son. There's places that he doesn't want him to go, and not mentioning Cleveland specifically then. But now that it's here, and now that they're holding the number 2 pick,
and it seems like Tennessee's not going to take him.
Yeah, so
because you would never opine to be number 2 if you thought there was a chance you could be number 1.
Of course,
right.
Yeah. And I don't think the Browns are taking a quarterback at 2.
I don't either.
I think it would
I've said that all along.
I think it would be just based on all the information we have at this point, I think it'd be a drastic mistake to take one of these guys at 2.
I don't know why. I think they're going to take him.
Well, why would be the desperation.
But
man, then you've learned nothing from your past.
I just think Kevin Stefanski is going to say, it's my time to pull the trigger.
I can make him work.
And I feel like I can make it work.
Well, it would be the end for Kevin and for Andrew if they took him, and after 2 years, it was obvious we needed another.
The thought process, if Kevin can make him look like a bona fide franchise quarterback, and he has some ups, some downs, and he has a fun year, and we have fun watching them compete, he could win 5 games, and
he could,
and we would not think twice about Kevin Stefanski coming back.
On that, I've decided that on draft day is the most. It should be called overreaction day.
Oh, we're gonna trip
because that's what it is. It's overreaction day. But here's what I'm going to do myself.
You've made a personal contract.
I have made a personal contract. I try to get better every day, every year.
All right.
And one of the things I have to get better at is overreacting. I'm not knee-jerk Jay, but I could overreact. I said I'd make the world's worst general manager because I'm firing guys off one game. No, that's what an overzealous fan does. But here's what I'm going to do myself, and I'm going to ask the public, Browns fans, I don't care what the other fans do. Browns Nation is the most divided fan base I've ever seen. Ever. Why? Because we've lost for 30 years, and that creates division. You think it's this. You think it's that. Now I hate you because you think it's this and I hate you. No. We're brothers. We got to love one another before anyone else can love us. So here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask everyone else to do. I do not think there is a turnaround quarterback in this draft, and that's what we need. So my preference would be to pause, take a guy like Carter that you know is going to make a difference, especially if you're going to trade Myles Garrett, and then try to get your quarterback somewhere else. You can get quarterback somewhere else, ask Philadelphia. So what I would ask Browns Nation to do, and I'm going to do on draft day, when they pull that card, and if they walk up there and say, with the second pick in the draft, the Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado, I'm going to hold my fire, I'm going to dump my powder, and I'm going to say, let's go. Let's make this work. Here's the wrong way to welcome Shedeur Sanders to town. If 50% of our fan base hits social media and starts saying, this dude sucks, He'll never win here. Hold your fire. Because I'm telling you, it makes a difference to the psyche of the player. Let's not make him hate Cleveland before he ever gets on the plane to come here for the first time.
Now, listen, I'm on board. This is the way I'm thinking about it. If the pick is quarterback, I'm on board with whoever they pick. It don't matter. If they take one third, fifth, sixth round, I'll ride with them. Only problem you're going to have with the Duke of New York going crazy in postal is they bring you up a pick at number 2, and it is anybody other than Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, or quarterback.
What if they trade back and they can tell you why it's best for the franchise?
Okay, if they trade back and get one of them dudes, I'm okay with it. But if they trade back and you give me a left tackle or a nondescript defensive tackle, I'm going to lose my mind.
Philly proved those guys are important too.
But those guys are not Jalen Carter. They took Jalen Carter at 9. Aaron Donald went at 13.
Jalen Carter, by some scorecards, was the best talent in that draft.
It was the
but he
off-field
slipped
stuff.
because of the off-field
That's the only
stuff.
reason.
And I don't think we've got a guy in this draft.
No.
Maybe we do, but I don't think we do.
I will lose. You can't listen. I'm with you. I'm not going to listen. And by default, even though I will lose my mind within the first 3 to 4 hours, and I'll come back around. I'm in agreement. I'm gonna let them do what they're gonna do because this is y'all show. You better make it work.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Go back and look at the
better make
reaction
it
in
work.
Buffalo when they took Josh Allen.
Oh, they hated it.
Hated, booed the pick.
That worked out okay.
It
That's
was
why
okay.
I think it's overblown if fans, especially with a kid like Shedeur Sanders. He's seen it all. When you grew up the
That's
son
true.
of Deion,
No, that's a good point.
You got thick skin.
That's a good point.
I'm not worried about that kid at all if the reaction
I just
is
hope
negative.
we can put on a unified front. Let's let it ride.
Do you think it's possible? I don't think it's possible.
I actually
No.
think
I think it's going to be
I'm
about.
telling you, whoever we take,
If it's a
insert
quarterback.
name here, there will be trending, Abdul Carter's great, trending, Abdul Carter sucks. That's social media.
I believe, we talked about this when he got hurt. I think the biggest thing that broke this fan base was Deshaun. That was the biggest thing that fractured the fan base.
Really?
was
I thought
the
it was
acquisition
fractured
of Deshaun.
after Baker.
The running of Baker, it's all in one. The running of Baker out of town
okay.
and the
Yeah, so
bringing in
you-
of Deshaun broke the fan base.
Yeah.
I thought that at the time. I thought that
No,
when he got hurt.
That is the epicenter of the ultimate division.
And
of this
now
fan
that
base.
that has been flushed, I mean, the Baker piece is whatever, but Deshaun being flushed, I actually think that could and should bring some sort of healing of the fan base.
Wouldn't that be
just
something?
having that removed.
Wouldn't that be something? If we drafted Shedeur Sanders 2 years later, we're two rounds deep in the playoffs, and our fan base can hold hands, sing kumbaya, and hug.
Yeah.
And we don't hate each
That'd be
other.
great.
Because I got to say, am I overstating that? The fan base.
It's broken.
And the way they
But I think it's
go
broken over the
after
quarterback.
one another's necks.
They be
over simple statements.
they be.
What the hell are you talking about? You're an idiot.
But think about
wow, that
well,
escalated.
that's just the nature of
I
social
know, but
media
it seems
in
like
general.
it's more
But it's,
with the Browns.
I mean, not all. You can't say 100% of it, but I think the vast majority of it centers around the quarterback and the decisions made at the quarterback position.
Well,
because that's the spot.
We was yelling at each other about Odell Beckham Jr. I think that's where it started because it was like Baker
yeah, but we were united when they got him.
Yes.
Everybody was ecstatic.
Everybody
when
was
they got
dancing
him.
in the streets,
And-
ordering playoff tickets.
and prior to that, like I don't remember it being like, oh, you got to have a side. After that happened, sides was drawn.
Yeah, it just seems like we're so divided. Mike, I know you want to do a read. I quickly want to throw this out here just for breaking news. Not sports related, but kind of. Former Ohio State coach Jim Tressel nominated as Ohio's lieutenant governor.
I had that in. We're gonna do it in overtime. We're gonna
Wow.
figure out what that means.
Oh,
I mean, his nickname was the senator.
The senator.
For crying out
Yeah,
loud.
that's right.
What that
Should have
tells
ran.
me is, I think there seems to be this internal struggle in Ohio politics. I think DeWine wants a guy like Tressel, who is way more. I don't even know what his political beliefs are, but I imagine just knowing Jim that he would be a moderate, whatever he is. And I think Vivek Ramaswamy has already said he would like to enter the race for Ohio governor. He's more a radical right. I don't want to call him radical right. He's more to the spectrum right than I would think a Jim Tressel would be. So it's interesting.
He's not going to win that.
Because
Mike just ordered me to shut up and hold thoughts for overtime.
We're gonna do it for overtime.
Okay.
So
Okay.
It's a good tease into overtime.
I just wanted to get that out there.
That's really-
Jim's going to win
That
that.
came up on my feed. I'm like,
is-
wow,
it
I
is
didn't
very
expect that
fascinating.
today.
Lieutenant governor's number 2, so who's his number 1?
No, I'm saying that when DeWine can't run again.
Right.
So I'm saying that I believe.
We'll talk about overtime.
Yeah, I believe that
Yeah, he's winning.
Tressel would likely run for governor
And he wins.
from the lieutenant governor spot.
It would be